Hey, Chris,
Yeah, Fred.
what's a Mason?
That's a really good question, Fred.
You've reached the internet's home for all things masonry. Join Chris and I as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft. From the common gavel to the trowel, nothing is off the table. So grab your tools and let's get to work. This is On the Level. Well, we are back again.
Hello,
Chris,
hello.
what do you say, man? How's it going?
It's going great. Doing fantastic. I am very excited to talk some more about the Fellowcraft degree.
Fellowcraft degree, that's right. I was reading a little bit of the history of it. I guess we're jumping right in. No banter? Gosh, what's happening to us?
I think I time to banter with you. We got Fellowcraft degree.
Ain't nobody got time for that. A little bit of the history of it. Of course, the operatives, under the operative system, there was only 2 degrees. The Fellowcraft was the Master Mason degree.
Yes.
Upon coming into the speculative era of our craft, they broke those 2 out, and it's an interesting read.
Yes.
How it works, and I like it. I think the 3 degrees, it spreads it out further, and it gives you more opportunity to slowly, carefully learn through all the way to the beginning of your Masonic life, which is the Master Mason degree. Once you become a Master Mason, you are ready to begin. You didn't end. That's not an ending. That's a beginning.
That's so true. People don't realize that, and it's tough to tell somebody that when they're going through 6 to 9 months of this process, catechism, give back, that at the end of this, you're just starting.
That's right. Yeah.
You can't tell them that. You lose a little momentum. But it is true. You get to, after all this work, you get to finally sit in those coveted, stated meetings. And you're just so excited to see all the fun things that happen in the ceremonies and the rituals and the mysticism that must be happening in there.
Yeah, and then you ask yourself questions like, are we still talking about getting a card reader so we can take credit cards?
We
Haven't
are.
we been talking about that for over a year?
We're in year 2 in our lodge of talking about that.
Yes. When I first came to our lodge, we were talking about that. And, well, last stated meeting.
Well, actually, we've approved it and purchased it, but there are parts of our lodge that don't like it. And so now the struggle begins.
Ah, yes. Well,
to use it or not to use it, who has more political power in the lodge? We'll
well,
find out.
Eventually, the mighty 147 will catch up to the 90s, and we'll have a ability to receive payment through credit card. Anyway, I don't know how we got. There's your first rabbit trail, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom.
A little bit of the inside baseball there, letting our little of our dirty laundry out to the world.
Well, we got there because we were saying, Fellowcraft degree, your head is into it now. You're like really involved in this process, and it's all very informative and structured, and it's fun to say old English words sometimes. It is fun to say it, and you sound like, wow, I can't believe I'm saying these things.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I like the way this sounds, and then it's starting to eke its way into your natural vocabulary, and you start to slip out a big word here and there, and you're like, wow, I'm becoming a better Mason. I'm smart. And then you get to those meetings, and you realize, oh, boy, this is what it was all about. And you've got to get involved in the appendant bodies and get more degrees and more knowledge. Or you go back like you did and you kind of start from the beginning and dive deeply back into that stuff. And that's how you get better as a Mason.
Yeah, that's right.
But either way, your journey's just starting.
That's right. And I think that every Mason in the modern era, if you will, should, upon becoming a Master Mason, should endeavor to go all the way back to entered apprentice and go through your mentor's manual, go through your books, go through all the handouts, and know what it means to go through the entered apprentice, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason degrees, and redo your memory work. Get on it. Get that. What is it? What's the first one? Silver card.
Yeah,
get working on those things, because
yes,
to be a Master Mason and not know the basics of the craft is a dangerous business. And we find that all the time with people who are in positions of authority who don't know the craft. And that's a bit of a problem out there these days, and I know if you're listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That we have a crisis of Masonic understanding in a lot of the management areas. I'm not thinking of anyone in specific, but you know that's a problem. Knowing the craft. Why would you be in a craft of a system of morality, and not really understand what it's about or where it came from and all of that stuff? And I'm done preaching on that one. Let's talk about the Fellowcraft degree. I thought, Chris, we would read. We talked about. I think last time we left off.
Let us read from the Great Book of Knowledge.
And we'll read from the Great Book of Knowledge.
The Mentor's Manual.
The Mentor's Manual, which is published, so we can read from it. Just so everybody knows. We're not revealing any secrets. You can find it online.
Yep.
It is GL 217, if you wanted to be geeky about it. But I thought we'd, the wages, which is 4.10 in the Mentor's Manual. We left off, we talked about the jewels.
We're finally getting paid in Freemasonry?
And we're getting paid some wages in Freemasonry. That is correct. And I'm going to read, it's just a paragraph. I'll read it. Maybe we can talk a little bit about it.
Maybe
Perhaps
if we feel like it.
We can talk a little bit about
We'll
it.
see how this goes.
4.10, the wages.
Money.
The wages of the Fellowcraft, corn, wine, and oil, are the symbolic wages which are earned by the Fellowcraft who completes his task and comes to the middle chamber. These symbolize wealth in mental and spiritual realms. The corn represents nourishment and the sustenance of life. It is also a symbol of plenty, as the term is applied to opportunity for doing good, work for the commonwealth, and service to mankind. Wine is symbolic of refreshment, of health, of spirituality, and of peace. The oil represents joy and gladness, as well as happiness, and recognizes these as a natural sequence following the partaking of the corn of nourishment. Taken together, corn, wine, and oil, the symbolic wages of a Fellowcraft, represent the rewards of the good life. Corn, wine, and oil are used as elements of consecration in the other Masonic ceremonies, of which the Fellowcraft will be informed in due time. A little bit of a mystery there.
These are highly symbolic things that we're using everyday objects to represent. So if you were to just say, hey, here's some food and here's a drink and here's some oil, you wouldn't think much of that. If you weren't a Freemason, you'd say, okay, this is weird, but I guess it means something cool, with the oil. But the wine and the corn makes sense as food and goes together. But we did public ceremonies with these things. They you can find in George Washington pictures where he's putting corn, wine, and oil on a cornerstone. So these are very symbolic things, and I think they touched on it there. If you take corn, for example, corn, we know isn't meant to be like an ear of corn. It's meant to be like representative of wheat or grain, which is the foundation of civilization. You had nomadic man right in the Meso times who was a hunter, and they had to travel around and hunt animals to survive, which is a tough life. They had to follow the herds. They were in constantly changing environments. They had no roots. So the idea that you could bring your food with you, or you could bring your food to you. You could actually plant it and grow it and harvest it, changed the way that we lived as a species, and is the first pillar of society, I think, that we're no longer nomadic. Now we can put roots and start a community thanks to grain.
Right.
And so that's the first wage of a Fellowcraft, is that symbolic foundation of society. That's kind of powerful symbology.
It certainly is.
And the wage. Here's
far
your
as
first. This is something to remind you of something so powerful it gave a civilization, and here you go. You're going to receive some of this.
Yeah, processed wheat or corn. It speaks to a lot of things. How did it get processed? Okay, well, we're an agrarian society grows the grasses, of wheat and corn, and all. Corn technically doesn't really appear in nature. I get that, but it was originally wheat. And to have wheat stone ground wheat in front of someone who's making bread, well, they got to know a little bit about agriculture. They got to know a little bit about stone masonry, because those mills that grind that stone have to be designed and built and created. I think that the wheat, the corn, like you said, it represents that society, a built, thriving, working society that can feed itself.
Right.
Industrious enough to feed itself, and symbolically we can take that as Masons in the same way. The corn, the wage that I receive is symbolic of my ability to care for myself, my ability to, and the lodge itself too, even the lodge, to be open to correctly handle their finances and their money.
Yes.
Sorry, I had a little frog in my throat there.
I guess you could say that it does symbolize abundance and wealth, which does tie into money in a way, but maybe not morality. But it definitely is a symbol of abundance and wealth.
Sure, and plenty. It says as well. It shows that, right? The
plenty of corn,
plenty of wheat and corn, right? And plenty is a sign of blessing.
It is.
Right? It's a sign of blessing. It's a sign of doing what is right, doing what is good, brings about blessing. The writings, all the writings of Solomon in the book of Proverbs are all about, do what is right and be blessed, do what is wrong and go without.
Yeah.
And it's I think that the symbolism of wheat as one of the wages of a fellow craft mason cannot be understated.
And this ties into a theme that's threaded throughout the fellowcraft degree, which is looking at the formation of society, and and the beginning of man's knowledge and intelligence and art, even. Because as hunters, you're not living a life of plenty. You're living a life of every single piece of that animal we need to use. We're going to need that for heat. We're going to need that for food. We're going to need this to lure other animals. Like, nothing could go to waste. There was no abundance. Everything was like lean, mean, scared. And where's my next meal coming from? And how long is that going to be? But now we have food that we can grow, which means we don't have to go hunting, following, worrying about food. So we can start to spend our days and our energies dreaming, thinking about things of the, artistic and philosophy and high-minded things. We don't have to be constantly digging and fighting and hunting anymore.
Which ties right into the fellowcraft degree as you go through it.
We're talking about orders of architecture now, right?
Right, yeah.
From the first formation of society, we had architecture in some shape or form. And so we start to trace that too. Sure, it started with some simple sticks, and we've gotten up to these beautiful, elegant pillars through time, and the architects started to think, and the geography and sciences and math and logic and, using arithmetic. All this stuff plays into the beauty of architecture and the science of architecture. Yeah.
It just, I think I read it in the other handout for the fellowcraft degree, is that it started, if you just think about the very beginning of architecture, it started as shelters. So where did the shelter begin? Perhaps it began, in a forest where trees were just cut down, and they were, a lean-to was created, and then a roof was put on it to get out of the elements, and from there,
just thatches of grass.
We ended
whatever you could use as shelter.
We ended up with the if you go to Greece and you see the what is it, the Pantheon.
It's a completely Doric structure.
Right, yeah.
The entire thing is in the Doric style.
The Colosseum. Then you go from the Colosseum to the great cathedrals in Europe, and in England and Germany, and then go to New York City and see the buildings, and
Washington,
all of the architecture.
DC,
Washington,
the seat of
DC.
our powers.
Right.
Modeled after those first Greek structures. And influenced by the Romans who refined it. And here we are still imitating them thousands of years later.
Yeah, and it still comes back to architecture. The foundation, the strongest part of it, the foundation, and you build.
There's a rabbit hole worth going down. Architecture comes from God.
It does.
And we learn it through nature. God talks to us about that through nature. We observe, we study, we see the way that things can support weight and the designs that form, of a shell, a spiral shape, anything, the way that trees grow and can fall on each other and support weight as pillars. There's a lot. Look at a bee's honeycomb. How strong is that when you weave that together? And from nature, you can learn how to, use these things in our lives through architecture and science to enrich us and improve our technology. But we didn't invent it. We just observed it in nature. And where does nature come from to a Mason? It comes from your creator. So
that's right.
There you go. You're speaking directly to God through nature.
Yeah, and like Sir Isaac Newton said, it's nature and nature's God. We observe. Yeah. If you look in the stars every morning at 4:15 a.m., I let my dogs out front. I've done it for the last 20 years, and I look up in the sky, and at this point, I can see what season it is because I do it every single day, and it's dark, and it's right around the same time, and season after season, I can see the same stars and planets that come by every single year, and I imagine myself on the plains of wherever 5,000 years ago, staring up at the stars where there is no modern convenience. I'm not who I am. I'm a man of that time, and I can see something that is stark, and that is design. Mm-hmm. It is designed. It is the same. I look up on this day every year, the same day I look up and I see the same star patterns. I see the same things over and over again. I look at the forest. I look at the trees. I look at the birth of animals. I look at the birth of my own children, and I see design, poetic, fluid, amazing design. From that, mankind has begun to we build, and it's just like you said, Chris. We observe it.
Yes,
we didn't create it.
No.
We observe it. We're thinking God's thoughts after God. God thought them. He created them. He brought them about. And then we think them. That's what Sir Isaac Newton, the famous, he's sitting under an apple tree and the apple hits him in the head, and he immediately thinks to himself, well, why?
Right.
Why doesn't it fall up? Why doesn't it fall sideways? Why does it fall down?
This is how science is created. It's just an observation and a measurement of the natural world, our observations and measurements of it, to try to have an understanding of the rules of the world in which we live. Even if we don't understand the whys, we can still measure things and not understand them and even utilize them. I mean, I think about, I had surgery. Wow, rabbit hole within a rabbit hole. That's new. I had surgery, and I'd never been under anesthesia before, and the doctor put something in my pocket. He's like, I'm going to use this on you later. I said, oh, is that the good stuff? He said, yeah, it is. It's the best stuff. And I said, hey, doc, I'm a little nervous. Maybe you could help me out. Like, I had a fear of flying, so I went and learned how to fly. I got my pilot's license. I'm really scared about being under anesthesia. Maybe if you explain to me how it worked, I'll be a little less nervous. He said, well, the funny thing is, we don't really understand how it works ourselves. We just know that if you're a certain weight, that this is how much we need to give you in order to get this effect. But we don't fully understand how it works. And I thought he was shitting me. No, I went and researched it. We don't know how this stuff works.
Right.
We just observed it, measured it, and use it now to our benefit. But we don't have a full understanding of how it works.
Oh, and that's true in so many things. Like, for instance, going back to Newton, he designed mathematical systems for identifying gravity, right? And force and entropy and all that stuff. But at no time did no one still to this day knows what gravity is. We don't know what it is. We can measure it, terminal velocity, the calculus and all that. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Isaac Newton. Some people say he was a Mason. I don't know. But
yeah, well,
who knows? But everyone was a Mason according to Masons. But
if you were a smart guy, you're probably a Mason.
Probably were. But
Masons want to claim you. Yeah.
But if you even look at the atomic nature of life, right? Everything boils down to atoms, and we can scientists, way smarter than I, have hypothesized and theorized that it is a nucleus spinning around you've seen the little picture of the little center thing.
Neuron and a proton.
The neuron, protons going around each other. And they can identify that. And with some fairly good degree of certainty, that picture, that cartoon that they drew of those things happening is real. However, what they can't tell you is why.
Right.
Why does it keep spinning?
Right.
What makes it spin? Well, I submit to you, my brothers, is that it is God. It is God who continues to uphold his creation. He's the sustainer and provider of all things. There is not a radical molecule in all of the universe that God is not currently upholding. Now, that's my opinion.
I think
if you have a different opinion, that's fine with me. But that's the way I see it.
Most people would agree with you, I think. The people that wouldn't agree with you are the people that don't want to acknowledge God's hand in controlling their lives.
Yeah,
probably.
Sure.
I'm not saying atheists. Well, atheists would definitely argue with you on that. But I think even people that aren't atheists might argue with you on that because they just don't want to accept that. There are things that you're never going to understand. We will never understand, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
Right.
And that they're not present. And the more that we use what we call science, which in my mind is just a methodology of observation of nature, that's all science is. It's an attempt to find repeatable patterns that we can explain. You're just revealing God's truth. So just because I get what they're saying, okay, let's not just put our heads in the sand and say, well, it's God, so we don't have to look anymore. We'll just accept it's God. That's not what you're saying. You're saying, I don't know what that is, but I sure as hell know God's behind that.
Right.
And if you keep looking, and you probably hope they do, and you discover, oh, here's the reason that this is rotating here. This is why this is repeated out at scale throughout the entire universe. Great. Now you have a better understanding of God.
Right.
Science isn't killing your belief in God. It's affirming your belief in God. It is
absolutely affirming it. Right.
And I don't know why people don't understand that simple. Like, people are like, oh, you're a scientist, you must not believe in God. And the scientists that believe in God are like, why?
Right.
Exactly. It reaffirms everything I believe. This is just me finding him everywhere, or her, depending on what you believe God is.
Yeah, that's right.
So just because you say, well, I don't understand it, so it's God, don't misunderstand it that Fred is ignorant and saying, I don't want to understand what that is. He does. But he's not going to say it's a mystery that can never be explained. It's already explained in your mind because the same creator that made that thing you explained, but didn't know how to explain at one point, made that thing that we can't explain right now. It's the same stuff.
That's right.
Same creator, same processes.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, for me, during my search, that it was, what is the most plausible explanation for why we are here? Why is there something rather than nothing, right? Nothing would have been a lot easier.
Well,
right?
Science can back that up because look, laws that everyone accepts. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form.
Correct.
That's a fact that we all accept, scientists and everyone. Where did the energy come from then?
Right.
That's something science can't explain right now. They try with some outlandish ideas of a Big Bang. I mean, they've been teaching me that since I was a kid, and it never made sense to me. And when you question teachers, you can tell it doesn't make any sense to them either.
Well,
they're just teaching it.
Because nothing can create nothing.
Right.
Nothing ever could. So if there was a Big Bang, what was prior to that Big Bang? And that's where they start making fun of you and insulting you. But for me, I'll go back to what I said. Plausibility. What is the most plausible explanation for why this is a deep rabbit hole? Wow.
Simulation. We're in a simulation. That's
right?
Another one you got to deal with now.
Right. Well, that's one of the three, right? But at the end of the day, for me, natural selection through random variations didn't get it for me. There was too many unanswered questions. I just couldn't go there. What is the most plausible explanation? There is a creator. There was someone prior to this terra firma that we stand on, more powerful and complicated than it, who created it. Now, you can call him what you want. I'm a Christian, so he is God. He is Yahweh. But
Jesus.
But there is we're gonna have to get off this one and get on to the next
I'm
one.
curious though, because this is taking us to a point where we might have differing opinions,
Ooh.
possibly.
That would be good.
So what were you just saying there, right there? I had something in my mind to address
Surmise, won't you?
based on what you were saying, and now I've lost it.
Now you've lost. You haven't had enough. You haven't enough caffeinated
No,
sports
I have
drinks
a weak
yet.
energy drink this morning.
Well, I'll get back to it. Plausibility. I mean, what is the most plausible explanation for
yes.
why we are here?
Yes.
Something rather than nothing. Remember, at the end of the day, natural selection through random variation.
That's what it is. Evolution.
That's an evolutionary
So,
understanding. Natural selection through random variation. And if you talk to folks who hold to that atheistic, it's basically an atheist or naturalistic understanding, some people are shouting, I'm a evolutionary theist, evolutionary theist. Fine, we can talk about that later.
Wow,
But
the labels are impressive.
all of these labels, they go on and on and on. But if you want to talk about random variation through natural selection, or Darwinism as it's originally was formed, it breaks down. It just breaks down too much for me. I can't go there, because once you get to the point, what happened prior to there being nothing, right?
That's what you're always going to come back to in anything in science, because Darwin observed a natural process that I don't deny, because you can actually see it happening. Evolution is a thing. We're constantly in a state of mutation, and that's one of the geniuses of the Creator. I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think they go perfectly well together. A creator wise enough to endow something with the ability to adapt to its environment is a great gift, a great boon to give to something. It's not harsh. It's not like the temperature's changed. This species has been selected for extinction. No, the temperature changed. So there's this process of random mutation, and there is going to be mutation for everything. Colors are going to change. Sizes are going to change. Even objects, sex of things can change.
Microevolution.
It's constantly popping up, right? And the ones that fit the environment naturally are going to be the ones that are desirable. So they bred into the new generation, right? A guy with web feet born into people who have been stuck in the ocean is going to be the most desirable guy at the party. So it makes sense to me he's going to spread those genes because it's right for that environment. And the inbuilt ability for every living thing to mutate and adapt or hybridize is genius. I mean, that's just further proof of a creator that is intelligent to me.
Right.
So the observation of it in nature doesn't preclude the existence of God in that process. I don't understand why there has to be a separation on evolution.
Well, there's a lot there to go through, but with the discovery of the DNA, the blueprint of all living things, it changed a lot. So there is a pre-programmed blueprint for all living things. So that kind of set a standard that has if you wanted to be an intellectually honest, you have to look at that. So random mutation is known as a micro evolutionary process, and it's true. We adapt, but what doesn't happen is known as macro evolution. In other words, a pregnant giraffe gives birth to a hippopotamus.
Right.
It's not going to happen. My wife is giving birth to my second child, and I have to close the windows in case it's a pterodactyl that comes out of her, right? That's not going to happen.
That would make that would lower the birth rate if you might have a pterodactyl. If there's a
correct.
1% chance.
Right. There's a 0% chance of that ever happening. And the reason why is because we know now in an age of scientific enlightenment that everything reproduces after its own kind. Yeah. It's written into the code of what it is. And there's all kinds of arguments back and forth, which are fine. I'm not opposed to arguments. I try to know what I believe and why I believe the things I believe, and I try to study it and be responsible in my response to other people who disagree with me, but at the end of the day, you cannot, in my opinion, you cannot look at this creation and say to yourself, this is an accident. You just can't do it. It's not doable. And I don't care what
the
faith you're from.
The
odds are
impossible
astronomical
to calculate.
They're right.
Impossible.
They're incalculable. That's right. Okay. All right.
But
The wages.
that's great. That this simple discussion about corn, wine, and oil brought us to the creation of
Well,
man.
we've only talked about corn. We haven't even got to the wine or the oil, man.
Look at how deep these things go.
Oh, I know.
When you really strip back the layers, like there's a lot to this.
And I hope people listening will get with a group of guys, of fellow Masons, and have these kinds of conversations. And remember, gentleness and respect for
Yes.
those you disagree with. Do a little study. Know what you're talking about. If you don't, be honest and go, research and return and have these conversations, man. Open up your minds because it will liberate you. And that's
what
eventually
we're here for.
we're going to talk about the 7 liberal arts and scientists.
Yeah, maybe by part 9 of the fellowcraft.
Maybe
degree.
by part 9 of the fellowcraft degree.
I
Yay.
think we're going
Okay.
into 4 parts on this baby.
All right. So wine. Wine represents refreshment, health, spirituality, and peace, gladness, happiness, and it recognizes these as a natural sequence following the partaking of the corn of nourishment. Taken together, corn, wine, and oil, the symbolic wages of the fellowcraft represent the rewards of a good life. So the wine, it has always represented happiness, contentment. It's just always been that symbol, in Christianity, being a Christian, that's where I come from. The bread and the wine that represents the blood. It represents that that healing aspect of salvation. That blood that was given, for the people. So for me, wine is always going to be that representation of that satisfactory happiness.
Yeah.
When you drink wine, as long as you don't drink too much, because you won't be happy the next morning.
No.
But wine makes us happy, right? It symbolizes joy, happiness,
I think
fulfillment.
It also symbolizes a symbol of success. Like you're part of a society that had time to crush grapes and ferment it and go through this whole process just so you can have a tasty drink that makes you get tipsy. You kind of made it as a society if you've got wine available, access to this. And so it's used as 2 things, right? You said consecration, Masonic consecrations, means it's something important. And you will see people pouring wine on a cornerstone at a lane. So they're consecrating that stone. And it's also like a reward after a hard day's work. You can relax and have a refreshing glass of wine, which symbolizes that if you do a good job and you work hard at the end of your day or your life or whatever, however far you want to extrapolate this, there will be a reward that you'll enjoy.
Yeah, that's right. Let me read it again. Wine is symbolic of refreshment, health, spirituality, and of peace. So that's what the book says, anyways, about the wage of wine. Wine is given to us as symbol, and I always go back to the symbolism of it because that's what we do. We're speculative Masons. So what is the symbol of this wage trying to tell me, and how can I use it in my life? Otherwise, this is all academic, right? So but for me, if it's symbolic of refreshment, of health, of spirituality, and of peace, well, what does that mean to me? What is the wage that the fellowcraft degree gives to me represented in wine? What does it mean?
I think it's basically saying that you are a man, you work hard, and at the end of your day, you should be able to refresh yourself. I mean, we talked about that in the entered apprentice degree. You have to set aside time for refreshment or else you'll die of a heart attack at a young age if you don't relax a little bit. And so here's something that is being given to you by, nature's bounty that you can use for refreshment in your downtime. And we already know that it's important in Masonry for a good man to have downtime and to refresh himself. So
That's right.
while we don't promote alcohol or wine in the lodge, that's not appropriate. That's a time for us to work. But at home or during refreshment, Masonry is saying, hey, have some wine, relax. Yeah, you deserve this. You deserve a little refreshment and relaxation.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah, the corn It represents nourishment and sustenance of life, and the wine reminds me. It reminds me to seek refreshment or seek rest and leisure, to seek health, seek spirituality, seek peace. Enjoy the wine, take in the wine by seeking these things and having them evident and in your life. If you're a Mason and you walk around without any kind of health, spirituality, any peace, if you're constantly miserable, then somebody's eventually going to ask you, why
Right.
do you do this?
Yeah.
I mean, why are you doing this? Or maybe they're going to think, well, it doesn't work, right? It's not really working for you.
And nobody's going to want to be like you.
Nobody's going to want to be like me if I'm not, taking these things in and expressing them in my life,
And that's not a good Mason, right? Mason's supposed to be an example of the ideal that people should strive for.
Right. Yeah. Somebody who's got a full-orbed, rounded life, and it comes back to that same thing. It's that moral life that's bent towards brotherly love and affection. A guy that does the right thing, even when it costs him. When it's hard to do, but we do the right thing. And we love our brothers even when they're unlovable.
Yes.
But we don't have any of those at the 147, so we don't have to worry about that part.
Hell no.
I just felt like throwing that in there.
Now, the last one is oil. Man, this one can go, because we've mentioned oil before in the Entered Apprentice degree.
Correct.
We mentioned how it's part of the anointment, the oil of the anointed people with oil.
Yes.
And how important that was in their society. This is something that I think still when the king's coronated, I presume he'll be anointed with oil by a priest. And this is in 2023. We're still practicing this.
Yeah, right. So when King David, that'd be Solomon's father, was anointed by the priest, they poured oil from a horn on his head, and the oil dripped down over his head, onto his beard, onto his clothing, and it symbolizes a giving of the Spirit. So the Spirit that comes down over you and it covers you and invades every part of your life. That's the oil. And one of the during circumambulation, there is a scripture read that talks about the oil that rolls down the beard of Aaron.
Yes.
And and it's the scripture that talks about that the Lord is pleased when brothers dwell together in unity.
Yeah.
And it's as pleasing as that oil that drips down. That's the oil of gladness, the oil of God's Spirit being poured upon the king, that he might rule in justice, righteousness, kindness, and mercy. That's the oil that we're talking about here. It's a symbolic, of let me find out right here. It represents joy and gladness as well as happiness, and recognizes these as the natural sequence following the partaking of the corn of nourishment. So that's interesting, isn't it? I think that's interesting. So it is the natural consequence, or the natural sequence, right? So first there's the corn, the wheat. Then there's there's the corn, the sustenance, right? Then there's the wine, the refreshment, the health, the spirituality of peace. Then there's the oil, which is happiness, and it's the natural sequence following. So these wages come to us in order. First the corn, then the wine, then the oil. And they're earned by the fellowcraft who completes his tasks in the middle chamber. I love this stuff. That's why I love this stuff, because you could just if you keep reading it, and if you keep discussing it, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, doesn't it?
And you're going to learn lessons. Like, okay, what does this mean to the fellowcraft, right? They worked hard in the Entered Apprentice degree. They learned the basics of this stuff. They presented their proficiency to the lodge, that they know this stuff. And now here you go. You're going to the middle chamber now. That's where you're going,
Right.
where you're going to get your wages. And then you get there and you're like, no, not money. That's not how we pay.
Right.
You work hard, you labor, you with your brothers, you do all of this stuff, and you will be fed. You will have refreshment. You'll have joy in your heart, and you'll have spiritual enrichment. Those are the wages of the Mason. So it's promoting working with your brothers hard and enjoying the work. That's the benefit that you're getting, is the joy of going through that process with your brothers, and the spiritual enlightenment you're going to get from studying this stuff like we're doing right now.
Right.
And I think could that be one of the secrets of Freemasonry?
Oh, no.
That we learned how to be industrious, busy, work together in harmony, and we do it all just for the enrichment of our lives, of that, just going through that process together.
Yeah, that's right. And
how evil and satanic.
I know, right? Well, there's the whole Illuminati thing. We have to bring up the Illuminati every episode, apparently, so that we can...
Because we're hiding in plain sight.
We're hiding in plain sight.
We are the Illuminati.
Well, and that $30-40 million we have in the bank is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it brings wealth to all Illuminati members.
Yes.
Yeah, I become an actual lizard person once I get to the 33rd degree, I think.
Well, isn't that the 34th? The one that nobody knows about. Even the 33 guys.
That's right. Only the lizard people know.
The lizard people. That's right. At the end of it all is an alien, obviously, because
ancient alien.
Ancient alien.
Yes.
At the end of it all.
Season 53 reveals that the head of
aliens.
Freemasonry is an ancient alien.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I love that show, man. I could watch that show forever.
It all makes sense.
Ants, busy insects, or ancient aliens. Like, they turn everything into an ancient alien, and I love it. I just buy it. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
So how can I take the wages of a fellow craft and apply these concepts and aspects into my life? I think in an overall in a well-orbed understanding of the wages of a fellow craft, I think it speaks to a purposeful life. Take your work for instance. How do I apply corn, wine, and oil into my work? How do I make this applicable to my daily life?
Well, this is one of the things that separates us from the rest of the world. We're teaching these people who are now fellow crafts, and not even a newly Mason yet, but he's very close at this point. He's probably 1 to 2 months away from being an actual Master Mason. And he's wondering about all of Freemasonry, right? Everything is like amazing to him. That you can get up into the middle chamber only through hard work, dedication, working in harmony with the other brothers of the lodge. And look what you're going to get at the end of the day. It's going to be plenty, abundance, spiritual enlightenment, and it's going to be pressed down and running all over you and get into every part of you, and you'll be reformed as a man into a temple of light and knowledge.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts.
Not coins. We don't care about money.
Well, and of course, money being a representation of the things I need in life, right? So I get paid in fiat dollars. That's another conversation. Worthless fiat dollars. And I use those worthless fiat dollars to buy corn, wine, and oil, so to speak.
Right.
The things that I need to sustain my life. And really, that's what the wages represent. The wage that you're given represents that which I need for life. Well, what do I need for life? Well, what I need for a happy life is nourishment. I need refreshment, health, spirituality, peace. I need happiness.
Yeah,
I need industriousness. I need all of the things that these wages of corn, wine, and oil represent in my life. And it's fitting that these are presented to the fellow craft. He who has already gone through entered apprentice, he's learned his craft. He understands what's expected of him, and he knows how to do it. Now he's taking those tools, that knowledge, and he's going to that next place. Industriousness is the name of the game here. We're doing the work now, and we're given the responsibility of building the temple. What's the temple? We're the temple.
Yeah. The temple is a place worthy of housing the Spirit of God. That's what the temple was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, good word.
Speculatively, we're building too.
Yeah.
We're building a place worthy of being housing, a bit of the presence of God to live within us. More deep stuff.
Yeah, this is too deep. We'll have to switch gears. Now, next week, I don't know, Chris. Are we going?
We haven't
to
even
do
gotten
a
to the steps
fourth?
yet.
We haven't got to the steps. I'll tell you what.
The orders or I would love to talk about music as a science. How amazing
Music
that
as
is.
a science. I love it.
Astronomy.
Now, here in the book, it does not go into detail into all of the different aspects of it. Now, that music
Neither shall we.
Then neither shall we.
Not this pass.
Yeah, right. Not this pass. But there's a lot in here in this book. I'm very thankful for the Grand Lodge over the years, revising and putting together these publications.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of organizations out there that the only way you can really know what they're all about is you got to go and, read a book somewhere and that, only the secretary has, and they never take it out because really all they do is, fundraisers and drinking. Not that Masons aren't doing that in some independent bodies, but here it's all written out. And we have a library in our lodge, and most lodges do. And there's books after books after books of all kinds of there's so much that you could learn. I know I'm beating this thing to death, but there's just so much you could learn.
Yeah,
I'm just grateful for all of these publications that come out. If you are a Mason in the state of Florida and you haven't dug these books out in a while, I recommend you do. Get them out. They're pamphlets, the books, the pamphlets. Get them out and read them. Find someone to discuss them with, and actually do some of the work in your life. You won't regret it. You absolutely won't regret it.
Yeah, depending on who you talk with. If you get a good partner, it's going to be magic.
Yeah, right. Well, I got a pretty good partner to talk about this
That's
with,
what
Chris.
I was thinking. I'm the lucky guy. And it's recorded.
And it's recorded for all to hear. And if you're still listening, that means you haven't gotten sick of our rabbit holes and bantering, and you hung in there, and we certainly do appreciate it. What else, Chris, is going on in life, man? What's good?
What's good in life?
Yeah, Worshipful Master Chris Burns. What's happening with you?
Everything's good. Everything's good. I got today's Valentine's Day, so
oh, that's right.
Have a plan to purchase one of our favorite meals. Couldn't get a table at the restaurant, but we're gonna order it, take it out, take it to the beach, and have a nice candlelit beach dinner at sunset with our favorite food and a bottle of wine.
That's awesome.
That's gonna be my Valentine's Day. I live in Sarasota, Florida. Why the heck not, right?
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, man.
It's beautiful here. It's
Yeah,
paradise.
For me, Valentine's Day is a special day because it's also my wife's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So she's a Valentine's baby. So I do the Valentine's gifts in the morning, which I will drop off on my way to work this morning. And then I do the birthday gifts at night when I come back home.
Very nice.
So just to separate it, we've been commanded from on high that the two holidays will be separated.
Oh, they will?
Yes,
So
they will not be incorporated.
Birthday would be on a weekend or something. Is that how you do it?
Valentine's birthday day is not a thing. There is a Valentine's Day gifting,
She expects
and there
to
is
get
a birthday gifting, and they shall never, the twain shall meet.
I see. She's
Yes.
good. She's made sure she gets all the benefits that she's due in life.
Oh, yeah, my wife's very good at that. So anyways, I hope you guys out there are enjoying this day, this Valentine's Day. If there's somebody in your life that God has given you that you appreciate, gentlemen, make sure that you do what is expected.
Yes.
Do not show up empty-handed. If your wife said something to you like, "Oh, honey, it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. Please, brother, listen to me. I love you, man.
It's a trap.
Worry about it. It's a
It's
trap.
a trap.
It's a trap. Do not do that."
I mean, really, it's not that hard. It's one day that you just take a minute. Just go get some flowers.
Yep.
You don't even need candy or a card. Just the minimum. Get some flowers. That'll put a smile on your loved one's face. I guarantee it. Even if they told you it's not important to them, do it anyways.
Do
like
it
Fred
anyways.
just said, costs you a few bucks and a few minutes of your time. And, who's getting hurt there?
Who's
she gets
getting
some
hurt?
flowers. She gets a smile. She feels important.
Right.
And maybe she does that for you. And you think it's silly, but deep down you're like, I love it. This is so awesome.
I don't know how we got up on this one either, but
We
if
do
you're,
have something.
huh?
We do have something we should tell people.
Okay, go ahead.
That
Oh.
we can confirm that we have purchased our booth at Grand Lodge.
Wow.
Yes.
We're going to Grand Lodge, baby.
So people should know that we're going to be there so they can look out for us.
Yeah, that's right. So we should start really plugging this. It's in May. Towards the end of May, and we will be there. I don't think we're going to be there for the last day, but we're definitely going to be there for the pre, during, and the Grand Lodge day. I definitely want to be in the stated meeting. I definitely want to experience that. That'll be a lot of fun.
Monday and Tuesday, we'll have a booth, and you can either slap us or shake our hand, whatever's in your heart.
Yep. Feel free to slap Chris.
I'm ready
and you
for
can
it.
shake my hand. I'm ready.
Yes, we will be there. And you can meet us if you're in the state of Florida. Grand Lodge is in Orlando, usually at the Rosen Plaza. Well, it will be at the Rosen Plaza Hotel. And you'll find Fred and I there.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be the guys.
You can pick up a hat or a shirt or whatever the heck we're
gonna try to do some merch with the logo on it if that's possible. We'll see how that goes. All of this is possible because of you guys, because of the support we've been getting. And we are trying our best to bring more and more content, to try and define it a little better, and to work harder on it. We're not going away. This podcast will always be out there if Chris and I have anything to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're only going to get better. We're going to introduce video and guests. That's one of our things. We'll probably be doing some interviews with some of the Grand Lodge people. Can't really say who. At this point, but hopefully we'll get some interviews with some of the high-ranking official. I don't know how else to say it. They're not. We're all brothers as Masons.
The Grand Poobah? Is that what it's called?
Grand
Poobahs?
That's
the Flintstones.
The Poobahs and the Bapus. We'll interview some of them and get some insights into the future. My thing is, what's the future look like? That's going to be most of my interviewing is going to be based on that. What do we see? And what's the future look like? Because I really think that we are on the ascendancy. I think that people are waking back up to our ancient craft and wanting to be, part of this movement that's happening in our state.
What I hear of the future sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I hear our next Grandmaster may be a bit more hardcore with expecting higher level ritual performance to be done.
Excellent.
I'm from what I hear, it may be required to earn proficiency cards, not just to know the words, but also to be able to the floor work, to be able to express your full understanding of the floor work in the words in order to get those proficiency cards.
Wow.
I love that.
Yeah, stepping up.
People will not like that. Some people will not like it because you got to work harder. But to me, it means a lot more. When you earn that card, people should respect that you know the work. Doesn't mean you know it perfectly, but it means you've spent the time to study it at least.
Right.
So I love that, and I hear that's somebody's a future Grandmaster's project, and I know another one coming up behind that one. His big thing is leadership, and so he wants to have a lot more training around the leaders of the lodges. He wants to provide them more training, more tools, because he recognizes maybe not everybody has had the education and leadership before they get to the leadership position.
Right.
And so, yes, we have Masonic leadership training in these programs, but he thinks we can do better. I think that's exciting for the future, that these are the things they're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, our lodge is a big lodge. I mean, there's a lot there. The treasurer and secretary positions. I mean, that's no joke, man.
No.
I mean, those are positions. They're handling a lot of money.
Yes.
There's a lot of trust invested in these men. I think the training
of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right.
We're all responsible for this stuff. Our building's worth well over $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
Free and clear, and we're responsible for that asset.
That's right.
When
that's
we're
right.
an officer that's elected.
So I agree.
You better know your stuff. You better know how to run a business and manage an organization and lead people. And, we have the basics in these courses, but I agree with future grandmasters coming up. We can do a whole lot better in training and preparing our people to be leaders, better leaders.
I agree.
And better leadership begets better lodges.
Yeah, and we wonder, why has Masonry, fallen away? Why has a lot of the old organizations, fallen away? Well, I think one of them is because we don't demand excellence.
Right.
We don't,
Right.
Look, if we don't take it seriously, why should anybody else? That's
Right.
always been my thing. If you're in an organization where management or the leadership is not taking it seriously, why should anybody else? We
Correct.
should take it more serious than anyone else. And on that note, perhaps we should end.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll accept it.
Next time on the fourth and final.
This is now the Fellowcraft Show with Fred and Chris.
Welcome to the Fellowcraft Show with Fred and Chris. On our final episode with Fellowcraft, we will probably, I would like to jump to a discussion about the 7 liberal arts and sciences. That's what I would like to, because that intrigues me the most.
Me too, and I think most people.
Yeah. So, and I think it's just, and I know a little bit about it. So we could have a little more in-depth conversation. You guys that are listening, please send emails. Let us know what you want to hear. Overwhelmingly, you guys have told us
Degrees.
that the degree work and talking about degrees, talking about the craft, opening up some of the writings and understandings that have been published. That's what you guys want. So that's what we're going to do more and more until something else comes up.
But you know what? Lately, I'm getting a lot of, this isn't right. You should make this private and not for the general public. And I keep telling people, we're not revealing any secrets.
Right. We're not revealing secrets. It's all published.
So before we talk about stuff, we're very careful to make sure that we don't say anything we're not supposed to say. And this is what I always tell people. You'd be shocked how little secrets we actually have in Freemasonry.
I know, right?
Most of it isn't a secret. And so we're careful. But feel free to check for yourself. Everything that Fred's reading is available for the public to download straight off the Grand Lodge website, which is published for everyone to see.
That's right.
And the opinions and the rabbit holes we go down are ours and ours alone. It's my thoughts, my ideas.
Right.
It's Fred's thoughts and Fred's ideas. We're not telling you what Freemasonry thinks. We're telling you what we think about Freemasonry.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you guys tell us what you think. And like we say, if you disagree, you go to the front of the line, man. We want disagreement. We want to hear your side,
Fred wants
your
disagreement.
view.
I want all of your ego-stroking nice things.
Yeah, Chris, send
Just
Chris
tell
the
me.
nice ones.
Yes, please. Give Fred all the problems.
Yeah, thanks.
But it's true. That's how we get better, right?
That's how we get better. That's right. So anyways, email Fred at onthelevelwithfredandchris.com. Chris, what's yours?
Chris at onthelevelwithfredandchris.com.
And with that, I think we'll end it. We'll let our brethren get back to their work, and so they can receive their wages.
Yes.
And
we need to go work to receive our wages
and
now.
then we will go and receive our wages as well. Chris, it's been a pleasure once again, and I will see you, sir, on the next one.
Can't wait.